We continue our conversations with the candidates vying to become Charleston's next mayor. Joining me right now is John Tecklenburg, a longtime Charleston business owner. Thank you so much, Mr. Tecklenburg, for being with us.
Thank you, Carolyn. Please call me John.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And you may call me Carolyn. What
Thank
about
you.
that? Okay. Let's first of all talk about flooding in the city of Charleston. People in Charleston have lost patience, they've lost property, and they've certainly lost time as a result of the flooding. What is your plan to relieve the flooding in Charleston?
Well, we've got both a short-term and a long-term plan with flooding, because it's not just from rain, but as we've seen recently, it's from tidal water. We've got a rise in sea level. Over the last century, it's risen 15 inches in Charleston Harbor. So we need to do a better job of everyday maintenance in addition to the big projects that the city's been performing. And then we need to think long-term about what we're going to do about tidal rise. And we need a resiliency plan in order to do those incremental things over time, like raising the road beds. And Main Road is a great example. We saw it flood week before last. Lockwood, for the last couple of weeks, we've seen tidal waters coming over Lockwood Boulevard. So the next time we pave Lockwood Boulevard, for example, we need to go ahead and plan on raising it up 12 or 18 inches. But one thing that I want to do short term, and it really impacts this tidal water coming into our stormwater system, is to make sure that we add the kind of valves, I call them backflow preventers, that will prevent tidal water from surging up into our stormwater system. You know, there are parts of our city where even on a clear day, on a real high tide, you'll see water bubbling up through our gutters, and that's of course coming from tidal water. And so we need to put in the infrastructure in place to prevent that from happening, along with everyday maintenance.
And speaking of infrastructure, drivers can spend hours trying to get into downtown Charleston, trying to get on the peninsula. What is your plan to ease traffic congestion and to improve infrastructure?
Well, part of that would be the flooding that we just talked about. And luckily, the big project that's going to relieve flooding on the Septima Clark Parkway is underway now. It will take a couple more years to complete, and that's one of those bigger projects. As to our overall transportation needs, I say there's no silver bullet that's going to solve our problems. We've really got to attack it from a menu of solutions. One of the biggest things, though, is it'd be the closest thing to a silver bullet is completing I-526. I think that's a critical component. Long term, we need to improve our public transit system so that it's a viable alternative for folks getting around. You know, in about 20 years, they're predicting that our population is going to approach 1 million people. And we're going to try to build roads and bridges, but we've got to fundamentally change how we're getting around, to have a better public transit system, to make it easier for folks, particularly downtown, to safely walk and ride their bike as an option as well.
For nearly 40 years, Mayor Riley has led this city, and if he had not decided to step down at this time, very likely he may have been re-elected again. So what part of Mayor Riley's legacy will you continue?
Well, I hope a good part of it. I worked for the mayor in the 90s. I was director of economic development after I sold Southern Oil Company, one of my businesses, and it was a great experience, and I had a firsthand look at how hardworking he is, and I'm going to continue that. You know, he's an incredibly bright guy. I'll admit I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to be very inclusive and ask the community and folks who have an interest to help me solve problems going forward. But hardworking, and to also listen and try to know, which I feel I've done in my lifetime, to know the heart and the needs of our community.
We too often have seen disturbing videos of police officers and their interaction with citizens. Mm-hmm. What do you plan to do to improve relations between cops and the community?
Well, the City of Charleston Police Department really does an excellent job, and crime statistics are headed in the right direction. We have an approach, the City Police Department, of neighborhood policing. but we need to continue those efforts and even reach a little further into the community in terms of those communications and those interactions, those relationships between our police officers and department and our neighborhoods.
If you were not actually in the race running for mayor of Charleston right now, which of the 5 candidates remaining would you vote for and why?
Well, there's some good candidates out there, and I'm not sure. It'd be a tough decision, but there's some great candidates out there to choose from. I know folks have a tough decision this year, but I hope they'll vote for me.
All right. Well, John Tecklenburg, thank you so much for your time.
Carolyn,
it's always a
thank
pleasure
you.
to see you.
A real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.